Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Xiaolin Perspectives. And today we're going to be discussing episode 28 of Xiaolin Showdown, the Black Vipers. And this episode actually brings the Xiaolin monks back to Texas. Why? Because the latest Shengong Wu to be revealed is found there. In this case, the Shengong Wu is an artifact called the Sphere of Yun. Basically this golden orb that apparently has the power to entrap your enemies in basically an impenetrable, sphere. As such, the Xiaolin monks arrive, and Clay, of course, is happy to be home since it's Texas. It's his neck of the woods. However, upon the group arriving, they're ambushed. Not by Jack Spicer, but rather by a gang of motorcyclists by the name of the Black Vipers. An all-female gang of bikers that, well, put simply, are not people you want to mess with. As such, when Clay realizes that these are the women that are coming, he tells Dojo to go and hide the Wu, while he and the Xiaolin monks try fighting the Black Vipers, and, for whatever reason, the Black Vipers kind of wipe the floor with them, as they immediately steal any Shengong Wu they have on them, and then hog-tie them. It's kind of one-sided and weird. Either way, the Xiaolin monks are defeated and are taken back to the Black Vipers' base of operations, which in this case is an underground mine shaft, and upon the Xiaolin monks being brought there, they end up meeting the Black Vipers' leader, who it turns out is someone that Clay knows. It's his sister! Yeah, it turns out Clay has a sister. Her name is Jessie, and her existence kind of surprises the other Xiaolin monks because they didn't know that Clay had a sibling. And there's a reason Clay doesn't talk about her. Apparently, she's the black sheep of the Bailey family, as she gets into a bunch of trouble, and in Clay's own words, she's a varmint. Although, based on what Jessie tells us, there may be a reason why she's a varmint, because it turns out Jessie doesn't like her brother, mainly because in the Bailey family, he apparently got everything. In all these physical challenges, he was always the best, and anything that she wanted, Clay usually got. Hell, when he was sent to the Xiaolin Temple, apparently Jessie wanted to go as well, but because she wasn't the apple of the family eye, she wasn't allowed to go. As a result, she decided that she couldn't be the best of the best, as she put it. She was going to be the best of the worst. And as such, she wound up joining the Black Vipers and wound up working up the ranks until now she's the leader of the four-lady group. As such, Clay is honestly disgusted to see his sister joining these people, but it's clear that Jessie is kind of hankering to duke it out with her brother, mainly because she still has a bit of resentment towards him about him being the best in the family, and she wants to prove that she's better by fighting him. But Clay actually does stick to some of his principles and says that he's not going to fight Jessie, partly because she's a girl, and partly because she's a sister. And it's here where I kind of have to rescind one of my criticisms for the Catnape episode, since apparently, yeah, Clay does not fight a lot of girls. I think the exception was probably Wuya, but I guess he didn't qualify her as a girl? I don't know. Point is, he doesn't want to fight Jessie, though. As such, Jessie has all the Xiaolin monks sent into a prison cell, and pretty much just gives Clay an ultimatum. He has to fight her, and if he wins, then he and the Xiaolin monks can go free, get the Wu that the Wu the Black Viper stole from them, and they can find whatever they were here for. If they lose, then they're basically just vulture food. Of course, Clay still says he doesn't want to fight his sister, so she basically just leaves him and the other Xiaolin monks in their prison cell so they can think it over. As such, the Xiaolin monks wonder how the hell they're going to get out of this if Clay's not going to fight his sister, but thankfully he has an ace in the hole in the form of Dojo, who he hid under his hat. And thankfully there was one Shengong Wu that Dojo didn't stash away, the changing chopsticks. And as such, after Dojo uses his claws to cut the Xiaolin monks free of their bindings, he gives the changing chopsticks to Omi, who uses them to shrink down and get into the lock for the cell, and he just pretty much turns the tumbler by just bashing a few things with his signature kung fu and elemental moves. As such, the door is opened, he returns back to normal size, and the other Xiaolin monks make a break for it, but as they're going through the mine shafts, Dojo begins reacting as he realizes the Spear of Yun is close. As such, the Xiaolin monks follow Dojo to where it is, and after breaking down a stone wall, they do end up finding the chamber where the Sphere of Yun is located. However, before anyone can make a claim to it, they're all hog-tied again, and Dojo is thrown in a sack. Yeah, it turned out that Jessie kind of knew that her brother was probably not going to she probably knew that Clay was not going to just change his mind and say, okay, I'll fight my sister. So instead, she was spying on him and just waited for him to leave. Mostly because she still wants to fight him, and she thinks that if Clay won't willingly fight her, there is still a way to get him to duke it out with her. Because it turns out Jessie's actually been studying the Shengong Wu, or more specifically, she calls them Shengong warts. It's a running gag throughout the episode, and every time she says war, Tomi corrects her. But point is, she knows how they work, and she knows that if she wants to fight Clay, then all they have to do is both touch a Shengang Wu, and then he'll have to fight her. As such, she willingly lets Clay go, just because she wants him to grab at the Sphere of Yun so she can too, and they can finally duke it out. However, before either of them get the chance, everyone gets interrupted by the arrival of Jack Spicer. So, yeah, the episode remembers that he's here, and unfortunately, Jack Spicer ends up actually winning the day, as his robots actually manage to get the better of the Black Vipers, and they end up ambushing the Xiaolin monks. They really are not doing well this episode, and as a result, he actually wins, getting the Sphere of Yun and claiming victory. As such, Jack actually celebrates the victory and even gets a bonus prize. It turns out apparently the Black Vipers have a code of honor, and since Jack beat them, he's named the new leader of their group, something that no one is happy with, but everyone concedes to. As such, Jack relishes the fact that he now has a group of lady bikers at his beck and call, but Jessie does not like that this guy is now her boss, and just getting annoyed with him. And as he tries to be all cowboy-like, do a little victory hoedown and dance with Jessie, she's clearly getting annoyed at him, and even starts venting to the other Xiaolin monks about how annoying he is, which actually results in her and Clay actually agreeing on something. However, Wuya and Jack can sense the animosity between Clay and his sister, and so Wuya ends up offering Jessie a chance to join her and Jack, which Jessie seems to accept. As such, with this new pact form, they decide to get rid of the Xiaolin monks by using the Golden Tiger Claws, which they stole off of the Xiaolin monks earlier in the episode, to send them several thousand miles beneath the Earth's crust into just some little pocket of Earth that they'll eventually suffocate in. However, Jessie says that she wants to do it as she takes the Golden Tiger Claws, and sure enough, she does end up sending the Xiaolin monks straight to this little, I guess, air hole in the Earth's crust where the Xiaolin monks are supposed to eventually perish. But as the Xiaolin monks are now resting in their new prison, Jessie comes back for them, mainly because, as she puts it, yeah, she may not like her brother, but he's still family, and she does not like Jack and wants to get rid of him. As such, while Clay is skeptical of listening to his sister, since she's still kind of a backstabber, the Xiaolin monks want to take this opportunity to get out of there, especially since they gotta find the Shengung Wu the dojo stashed. As such, they take the escape from Jessie and leave, and Dojo directs them to where he hid the Shengung Wu, and it turns out the reason why Dojo kept the changing chopsticks, it's because that's how he hid the Shengang Wu. Basically, he shrunk all the Shengang Wu the Xiaolin monks had, and then hid them in a cactus. And so, after he finds the cactus that he hid the Shengang Wu in, he used the changing chopsticks to return them all to normal size. However, once again, before the Xiaolin monks can grab them, they're ambushed, once again, by the Black Vipers. At this point, I'm surprised that these people have beaten supervillains before. However, it turns out this was kind of a full double-cross plan, so to speak. It turns out that Jessie managed to talk to Jack Spicer, and she basically she would give Jack Spicer all the Shengang Wu from the Xiaolin warriors if he returned leadership of the Black Vipers to her. And so Jack Jack accepted the terms of the agreement, and thus he allowed us all to happen just so that he could hopefully get his hands on the Shengang Wu. I say hopefully because it turns out Jessie has no intention of handing them over. No, she can't stand Jack, and basically she just did this whole thing to get control of the Black Vipers again, and then tell him to hit the road. And to ensure that he couldn't get any payback on them, the Black Vipers sabotaged all of his robots because, well, they're a motorcycle gang. They've worked on their bikes all the time. They know how to screw with a few robots. As such, the only Shengang Wu that Jack gets to his name at this point is, I'm assuming, the Sphere of Yun and the Glove of Jisaku. And as such, he leaves in a huff. But as for the Xiaolin monks and the Black Vipers, well, Clay is still just as pissed, because from his point of view, this is looking like a double cross on their part as well, that they were just used to find the Shengang Wu, and so he is very much pissed at his sister, and he lets her know that he's pissed as he thinks that she really was just a double cross environment like he thought she was, which actually does get to her a little when her back is turned to him. However, in the midst of all this, Clay managed to get free of his bindings, and he rushes to the Shengang Wu stash, which is all thrown in a sack. And Jessie finally sees her chance, and just as Clay grabs the sack, so does she, and so she finally gets a chance to challenge her brother to a Xiaolin showdown. And while it's clear that Clay really does not want to do this, especially since he just wants to get away from his sister, he has no choice but to accept accept, with him wagering the changing chopsticks while Jessie wagers the silk spitter. In this case, the challenge is basically, as Jessie puts it, a demolition Viper bike derby. She and Clay are going to be riding on Viper bikes through the gorge they're in, and whoever can reach this mesa first will be declared the winner. As such, Clay accepts the terms of the showdown, and thus Xiaolin showdown time. And once again, honestly, it's really damn cool. As the entire area as the gorge just metamorphoses into a giant stone racetrack. It's kind of freaking awesome. And the thing is, I'm guessing the showdown took what Jessie said about them being in Viper bikes quite literally. Because the thing is, the part of the reason why the Black Vipers are called the Black Vipers is because their motorcycles look like actual Vipers. However, the motorcycles that Clay and Jessie are riding in the showdown, they are almost quite literally Vipers with just seats and the only mode of control being a lever that the person riding has to pull. Otherwise, they look a lot more akin to regular Vipers. It's actually pretty damn cool. But either way, it's the showdown, and so Jessie and Clay race through the track. And while at first Jessie seems to be getting some leeway as she tries using the silk spitter to block Clay's path, he used the changing chopstick to slip by the webs and get ahead of her. However, before Clay can make a win, unfortunately Jessie gets distracted and ends up quite literally falling off the track. And this is a large gorge that's like miles in the air, so when she falls, it's gonna be a splat if she lands. However, Clay, not wanting anything bad to happen to his sister, ends up going in and saving her, but upon getting her on his bike, she pushes him off and then rides it right to the edge of the gorge, and thus she wins the showdown, winning the entire sack of Shengong Wu in the process and pretty much leaving the Xiaolin monks with nothing. So yeah, it seems like a wasted trip, and even Clay feels bummed out that his sister is this much of a bitch. However, as Jessie is riding with the Black Vipers, you can tell she's not exactly feeling happy with the victory. As such, from there, the episode cuts back to the Xiaolin Temple as the Xiaolin monks have returned, and Clay is clearly just is beating himself up with the fact that his sister pulled a fast one on him. But before he can mull in it for too long, Master Feng arrives with a package straight from Texas. And when Clay opens it up, it turns out inside the package is all the Shengong Wu. Yeah, it turns out that Jessie didn't exactly feel happy with the victory she had over Clay, and along with the Shengong Wu, she wound up sending a letter telling Clay that, yeah, the victory didn't feel as sweet as she thought it would be, and she decided that keeping all these Shengong Wu was really not right, and so she decided to send them back to Clay because she figured that he deserved more, though there is one Shengong Wu that she decided to borrow. And as such, Clay is happy that his sister really can be a nice person inside, but everyone wonders, which Shengong Wu did she keep? Well, the episode ends, we cut back to Texas, and it turns out that the Shengong Wu she kept was the wings of Tanabe, which she uses to fly through the air on her motorcycle. It's actually pretty nice, and I dig it, so yeah, that was the Black Vipers. Quite frankly, I think it's a pretty damn good episode. I admit, one of the problems I kind of have with the episode is how it feels a little all over the place when it comes to Jessie. As throughout the episode, it's hard for me to get a reading on her as a character and what her motives are at any given point in the episode. Like, there are a couple times where we do see that maybe she feels regret over her actions, but it still feels a little all over the place. And another problem I have is how the Black Vipers just seem to keep getting the drop on the Xiaolin monks, which I get they're a fearsome motorcycle gang, but counter-argument, these are Xiaolin monks who are trained in the very fucking elements of the earth, and who periodically have to hunt for these mystical artifacts around the globe that give each of them incredible powers if they're wielded properly. What I'm saying is, I think it's a little strange that they keep getting their asses whooped by this random biker gang. It's just weird, and it kind of doesn't paint them in a positive light. With that said, though, I feel like the strengths of the episode more than make up for the faults. Also, I guess the stuff with Jack feels a little out of left field and doesn't really feel fitting, I guess, except for maybe one little moment in the story, but I don't know. But either way, what I find good about the episode is, believe it or not, the character development for Clay and subsequently Jessie. While I did say that I had one of my complaints was that I could never get a full reading on Jessie throughout the episode, this episode, I think, does a really good job at expanding more on Clay's character in his home life, and also kind of showcasing an interesting arc for Jessie. In the case of the episode, what I think makes it work is that kind of using the biggest Texas episode as a baseline, this episode gives us a nice little idea of what Clay's home life was like before he went to the Xiaolin Temple. And, yeah, I don't think Papa Bailey was that good of a parent if Jessie is anything to go by. The thing is, part of the reason why Jessie is the way she is because she was always overshadowed by Clay when they were growing up. And the thing is, from her perspective, Clay was probably seen as the golden child. Because after all, like she said, Clay seemed to always win at everything, and anything that she wanted, Clay seemed to always get. But then we have the biggest Texas episode to use as a baseline. And in that episode, when we actually did meet Clay's father, we saw that Clay was constantly struggling to reach a goal that almost seemed unattainable. He was trying to reach his dad's approval by being a man in his dad's eyes, and his dad never approving of how Clay did it, no matter how much Clay tried to show how much of a man he was. And kind of using that and kind of thinking that over, it kind of makes you wonder how Clay's childhood was really like. Like, him doing all these cool... Like, the thing is, as we saw in the biggest Texas episode, Clay had to constantly prove to his father that he was a man, and the only time his dad ever acknowledged that he was a man worthy of carrying on the Bailey name was when Clay pretty much told him, "Shut the fuck up and let me do what I want," and that was when his dad finally respected him. But kind of thinking about that, when you really think about Clay in that light, it makes all the accomplishments that Jessie kind of brings up throughout the episode, which includes cattle rustling, horseshoeing, or pig chasing, or whatever. It kind of makes you wonder if part of the reason why Clay was doing all of these things wasn't just because I'm the best, I'm the apple of the family's eye, but more because he was trying to gain his father's respect. And the thing is, I kind of going back to the initial theory I posited when I look at Biggest Texas, that Papa Bailey was trying to push Clay into finally telling him to shut up. The thing is, apparently Jessie claimed that Clay's parents were proud of him, and yet Clay never seemed to resonate with that throughout the Biggest Texas episode. So you could argue that behind closed doors, Clay's dad was proud of the man he was being. It's just that he wanted Clay to finally stand up to him. So Jessie probably could have seen all of that stuff, and likewise thought that Clay was respected as a result. And the thing is, in a way, she was kind of right. Because Clay was supposed to be the inheritor of the Bailey name. He was supposed to be the next man of the house, or the man of the ranch, so to speak. And so he always had big shoes to fill. And so he was, of course, going to be the center focus for his parents. Which also brings us back to Jessie. The thing is, one of the reasons why Clay never mentioned that he had a sister was because he didn't want to mention that he was related to what was essentially a delinquent. But when you really stop and think about how the image she has of her brother, it kind of makes sense why she would become a delinquent, considering how badly she wants to beat this kid. The thing is, Clay's accomplishments are always something that apparently were lauded over. His parents always seemed to like him, and she was always jealous that he kept getting attention. That he kept doing all these nice things. So you could argue that part of the reason why she probably fell into being a delinquent was because she was trying to get her parents' attention. And all it did was just probably paint her in a negative light to the point where she became the black sheep of the family. Because after all, as we saw in the episode, Clay didn't want to talk about her until she was literally standing right in front of him. It's one of those, so it kind of makes you feel a little sorry for her, but what makes it worse is the fact that as she became more and more like a delinquent, she started resenting her brother more and more. As when she was a delinquent, she was really damn good at it. Like I said, she joined the Black Vipers and became their new leader. And among the Black Vipers, she's considered the best. And the thing is, throughout the episode, we're showing that Jessie is actually pretty damn smart. Like I said, while she wants to fight her brother throughout the episode, she constantly tries to get him into positions where he has to fight her, and she's good at setting them up. She has him captured, and so she issues the ultimatum: fight me or be trapped here, and if you lose, you guys get fed to the buzzards. Or likewise, she tails the Xiaolin monks so they can follow so they can lead the Black Vipers to the Spear of Yun, so she can challenge her brother to a Xiaolin showdown. Jack Spicer arrives, hijacks her gang. So what does she do? She makes a deal with him that'll both save her brother and get Jack Spicer out of the hot seat. It's clever. And considering that Clay's feats are basically ones of strength, it makes sense why to try and counter him, she probably would be smarter. But what makes it interesting for me is the fact that Jessie, let me put it this way. Jessie's not a bad person. It's just that she's suffering from a case of sibling rivalry turned up to 11. Because ultimately, while Clay may not fully believe it, she does care about her brother. The thing is, while she keeps trying to antagonize Clay and tries pushing him to do things that he's not comfortable with, it's not because she wants to be it's not because she wants to rule the world or she wants the power of the Shen Gong Wu, save the wings of Tanabe, and even then she just wanted the power to fly. The thing is, what makes Jessie do the things she does is just that she has lived that she's constantly been in the shadow of her brother for so long that she just wants to prove she's better. That's what's driven her throughout her whole life, probably. That Clay has always been considered the golden child, and so she's had to constantly do all these things to try and prove that she's better. And now that she's in the position that she's in, she basically wants to say, I am better, and I can prove I'm better, so just fight me and I will beat you. But the thing is, Clay is Clay. Clay doesn't want to fight his sister no matter how much of a delinquent she is. And so, throughout the episode, you see her just trying to get Clay into that position where they can fight. But the thing is, she doesn't want anything bad to happen to him. Oh, yes, she threatened the Xiaolin monks by being eaten by buzzards. But the thing is, when you actually think about the ambush that she and the Black Vipers did when the Xiaolin monks tried to get the Spear of Yun, it gives me the impression that she knew for a fact that her brother was probably not going to change his mind, or at the very least, maybe she was waiting for him to change his mind, hence why they were spying on them, but whatever. But either way, it gives the impression that she was fully aware that her brother really meant what he said about not fighting her, so she decided to try and put him in a position where he would have to fight her. But then enter Jack Spicer, and this is probably the only thing that he contributes to the episode. Jack Spicer beats the Black Vipers, takes them away from her, and for once, she and Clay have something they can bond over. They don't like this kid, and they both want him gone as quickly as possible. And as such, Jessie uses her strongest asset, her mind, to not only save her brother from harm's way, but to also get Jack Spicer out as she organizes the deal with him so that she can get the Xiaolin monk Shen Gong Wu out of their hiding place, get him ousted, and save her brother. As part of the reason that she would need the Wu, or part of how she could get the Wu at all, was that she needed to save him, and that's exactly what happened. She basically found a way to play everybody and still get what she wants. She got Jack Spicer out. She found the Shen Gong Wu. She saved her brother. It's all just one big thing. But the thing is, even throughout all this, it's clear that she does still like her brother, or at the very least, she still cares about him as family, like she said. It's just that she has to play the angles in order to get what she wants. And likewise, I think part of the reason why she was still willing to fight her brother, even after all that was done, was the comment he made about how she couldn't change. It probably did hurt her more than she would like to admit, and likewise when she saw her brother dashing for the grab bag of Shen Gong Wu, she decided, oh, this was her only opportunity, and she tried to vent it. Only to find that when she got the victory that she fought for so long, it didn't feel as satisfying as she thought it would be. After all, because she finally beat her brother. She got this grab bag of Shen Gong Wu, and she feels hollow. I find that to be I like that. It's a nice way of showcasing that despite everything, what she really didn't want was to be the best. She just didn't want to live in her brother's shadow. Like I said, in her eyes, Clay was the apple of the Bailey family's eye. And yeah, that may not have been entirely true, because after all, as we saw in Biggest Texas, Clay was constantly struggling just to prove himself to his father. Hold on a second, sorry, I want to silence that. But the thing is, it doesn't matter. In Jesse's mind, Clay was still considered the best. Was still considered the best, and she thought that if she could beat him, then she could finally come into her own and not actually be weighed down by him. Only to find the guilt of her actions hitting her like a truck because, yeah, he's still family. They may butt heads, they may have rivalries, but at the end of the day, she still cares about Clay. And there's no amount of shade that could be thrown around that would make her change her mind about him. She does not, and it's clear, and it's showcased throughout the episode. It's clear that she does not want anything bad to happen to Clay. She does still want him to be okay by the end of the episode. It's part of the reason why she still sends him to Shen Gong Wu at the end. She got what she wanted, it wasn't what she liked, and so she realizes, maybe it isn't a good idea to lord this victory over my brother and just give him back his stuff. It's nice. I do like that. And I think and the way we see that showcased with Clay throughout the episode is, well, okay, admittedly a little one-dimensional. I guess I can give another flaw to that, is that he always looks down on his sister. Always. And if I can give more crap to their sibling rivalry, he doesn't really help in the matter. If anything, I think he just adds more fuel to the fire. But I will still give him kudos that when push came to shove, he was still there for his sister. And I feel like the thing is, Jessie returning the Wu and fully admitting that she was wrong for doing what she did, that could be her reciprocating. At the end of the day, which I kind of like. And when it comes down to it, I feel like that Jessie and Clay, when you stop and think about it, are kind of just the natural endpoints of the way that their family went about things. Like I said, Clay was the golden child who had to reach his family name but never could quite get there. And so he was constantly struggling to prove himself to his father until finally he had enough and told his dad to screw off. By trying to live up to his family values, it helped push Clay into the man that he is today. Strong, patient, kind, and being able to analyze a battlefield and being able to work around his weaknesses as well as playing to his strengths. It makes for a good, which I think kind of makes sense. It's just that the one flaw he still had to work on was trying to prove that he was a man to his father, which he eventually overcame in Biggest Texas. But then likewise, there comes Jessie, the second-born child, the girl of the family. From her perspective, she didn't see her brother struggling. She saw her brother being rewarded and being heralded as the family hero who could do no wrong, and that resulted in her feeling nothing but resentment and anger to the point where she started lashing out and to try and prove that she was better than her brother. She wound up joining a biker gang, and now that she's the best of them, she wants to go back to her brother and say, "See this? I'm better, and I can prove it to you." It's actually kind of tragic in a way, and it makes me fully wonder what Clay and Jessie's upbringing was like more. Like, how were they actually raised? How much suffering did Clay have to go through just to be as good of a son as he could, and just how much resentment was Jessie building up beneath the surface all those years? It makes me kind of curious, but the episode itself, I think, does a good job at showcasing that natural resentment in play, and does offer a good arc for both Clay and Jessie. Like I said, I think that Clay's side of the rivalry is a little one-dimensional, as he keeps adding fuel to the fire, and the only time prior to the showdown that he and his sister seemed to click was when they both started making fun of Jack Spicer, which I thought was great. But at the end of the day, the thing is, the thing is, despite all the times that they butt heads, when it comes down to it, they do still clearly care about one another, and I actually do kind of like that. And I like the way it's showcased, believe it or not, with Jessie. As Jessie throughout the episode, while always trying to prove that she's better than Clay, when push came to shove, she really did not want her brother to hate her. When he mentioned when he snidely told her that he genuinely thought that she had changed, and that that he hoped that she had changed when reality was just still rotten, you could tell that she was genuinely hurt. Because again, I think part of the reason why she tricked Jack wasn't just to find all the Shen Gong Wu and get her brother to fight her. It's because she genuinely wanted to help her brother, and she had to work with what she had. And so she basically played all the angles so that she could get Jack Spicer out, get her brother back in, and get the Black Vipers back under her control. I think that it's just that, again, with how the situation was presented, it made her look like the villain, and when her brother gave her shit for it, she probably felt like crap too. And that's probably what further pushed her to still go through with the showdown, even though she didn't want her brother to hate her. And likewise, even when she won the showdown, at the end of the day, she realized that it didn't feel as nice. What did she do? Oh yeah, she beat her brother. She finally did the thing that she always wanted. and she basically just stole all of his shit and left him with nothing. Congratulations, Jesse, you're a shitty person! And yeah, I do genuinely like it. Do I admit it's a little rushed in some areas? Yeah, but by the end of the episode, when Jessie does return, the Shengong Wu admits that she's wrong and flies away with the wings of Tanabe. I kind of liked it. It actually did feel like there was emotional growth there, because at the end of the day, while Clay would kept throwing shade at his sister, he did still love her because she was family, and he had genuinely hoped that she wasn't as bad of a person as he thought she was. And by the end, when it's proven that she isn't that bad of a person, that she genuinely does still love her brother and even returned all the Shengong Wu, he at least feels emotionally justified. And likewise, Jessie, when she finally realizes the thing she wanted most was not to beat her brother, but just to kind of come into her own and fly high. It helped her kind of grow. It's kind of helped grow herself. I'm guessing part of the reason why she went and took the route that she did in life was all because she just wanted to prove she was better than Clay. But with that goal basically thrown to the side and her finally realizing that it was a selfish goal that would never give her any satisfaction, it made her realize there are better things in life that she could do, and thus she went off to do those things and try and let herself grow. It's nice. I do dig it. So when it comes down to it, I do have a few little nitpicks here throughout the episode, and there are little moments that do make me kind of roll my eyes, but for the most part, I think the emotional core of the episode works. I like the introduction of Jessie as basically learning about the rivalry does help shed more light on both her and Clay's living arrangements when they were growing up, how they were raised. The rivalry I think is not the rivalry with her brother is nice and I think does well. And like I said, while it's a little one-dimensional on Clay's part a few times, it still has I think the right emotional bumps in the right places that you still feel something by the end. I do actually like how everything ends up. I do like the little hints at how Jessie's really feeling, even if at some points it's hard for me to get a read on her. But by the end, I think it all comes together really nicely, and I did find myself smiling when Jessie flew off into the night sky. So when it comes down to it, the Black Vipers, I think, is a pretty good, enjoyable episode. It's got some nice emotions. It's got some nice twists. It definitely has a few problems here and there, but like I said, I think the positives more than make up for the negatives. And overall, I think this is just a pretty damn good episode. So yeah, I think that's really all I have to say. I thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I hope to see you next week. Take care.